Alright, today I'm changing out the stock speaker in this Marshall DSL40c. It has the Celestion 7080. This is the second mod I'm making to this particular amp. The first one was this LED foot switch mod, and I do have a video on how to do that. I'll link to that right here in case you're interested in how to add LEDs to your foot switch. Alright, let me flip this thing around. Alright, so I'm just using the number 2 Phillips here, and I'm just going to remove all of these. They do have a raised washer or a grommet, so make sure you don't lose those. So this has the Celestion 7080, and if you read reviews, obviously that's one of the weak points of this amp. I didn't think it sounded particularly bad after being broken in and I would say playing at volume. But what I did notice is with modern tones, dropped tunes and things like that, it wouldn't hold the bottom end. So I'm looking for a tight bottom end. Just like I guess everyone's looking for that, but in this case I'm talking about a speaker. So I opted for a Celestion Vintage 30, and again I know it's going to sound better at volume. I like playing in the pentode mode, the full 40 watts. I actually can notice a difference that I don't like when you drop back down to the triode, the 20 watt mode. Some people actually like that, but I like to just turn the amp up and point it away from me if I can, and crank it. It sounds better. So we're going with the Celestion Vintage 30. I'm not doing any sound clips in this video. It's just basically how to replace the speaker, which I know some of you probably are going to say, why would you show someone how to do that, right? I make that assumption about some of my other videos, and the funniest thing is some of those videos are my most popular videos. So I'm trying not to make that assumption because people of all varying skill sets may want to do this, okay? Here it is. One thing you're going to want to do is just make note of the polarity of your speakers. Obviously, red is your positive, black is your negative, and on the new speaker that should be indicated correctly as well. So let me zoom in so you can actually get the screws on the Celestion here. Alright, so obviously you want to wiggle these connections free. You've got 4 Phillips screws to remove here. Make sure you don't smash your EL34 power tubes. I've not actually biased this amp yet, but once I do that I'll make a video on how to bias this particular amp. And I've not done the C19 capacitor mod yet either, because I actually don't think the amp sounds horrible, and at volume, when you turn it up, it's not that harshness that people complain about really isn't present. I assume that those people are not playing the amp loud enough. You've got to get the cone to move. That's my assumption anyways. So I realize that the Vintage 30 is going to take quite a break-in period, and it should be played loud as well. So I'm not opting for a speaker that's going to allow me to play quieter. I'm opting for a speaker that's going to force me to play just as loud, but I'm hoping to hold that tight bottom end. Alright, so I'm going to remove this, watch your EL34s, and just tip it out of the way. Let me grab the new speaker here. Alright, I'll also make note on this particular amp, well actually on any amp, you want to make sure that you get the correct ohm rating for the speaker that you're replacing. And in this case it's a 16 ohm. You can see here that it runs to the 16 ohm port. These are for external speakers. So alright, so another thing I thought would be worth noting, and I'm just going to go ahead and do this even though I would say that the accuracy may be inaccurate, and the reason being because as I drop this magnet down on this inexpensive scale, this is like a $15 eBay scale, you can see that it actually is pulling the scale itself up. So let's go ahead and drop it on here and see what this speaker weighs. So 5.94 for the stock Celestion. Let's see what the Vintage 30 weighs. Okay, I can tell you for sure that it's heavier. Okay, so about 10.3. So we're talking about close to a 4.5 pound difference that you're going to be adding to your amp with this particular speaker swap, and probably any speaker upgrade is going to increase the weight of the magnet. So keep that in mind. Alright, let's drop this in place here. And again, you don't want to break your power tubes, and you don't want to poke your fingers through the speaker cone. And in this case, I'm going to have my terminals here. I could adjust the little clip so I could have the Celestion logo upright, but that doesn't really concern me. So I just need to get these Phillips screws in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to break this in over the next several months. I may do some various clips, comparing the difference between the stock speaker and the Vintage 30. I listened to several. I listened to the Creamback 65, 75, Vintage 30, some of the eminent speakers, the Texas Heat, and comparing what, the kind of music I've sort of evolved into. I kind of went with the Vintage 30, so sort of the classic rock, hard rock speaker. Although I do like to play in my clean gain tones, I probably play more hard rock music. So this is the speaker I went with. I would encourage you to review several of the clips on YouTube and consider the kind of music that you like to play, and then give it a shot. So what I'm going to do here is just make sure everything's tight. I'm going to put the back on. I'm going to put my leads correctly here. Red is positive, black is negative. We mentioned that. And then I'm going to try it out. I'm going to blast out the amp for the rest of the afternoon at high volume. So thanks for watching. Hopefully this video has been helpful. Obviously it's a straightforward job. But again, I don't like to make the assumption that it's an easy job, because a lot of people want to see what they're getting into before they attempt it. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up, crank it out, and maybe I'll post something in a few months once the thing's broken in and see what the differences are. If you like to see more of this type of thing, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.